The sky over the Santa Cruz Islands erupts in fire. The 26th of October, 1942, 09:08 hours. Lieutenant Stanley Swede Veitasa banks his Grumman F4 Wildcat hard, scanning the chaos below. USS Enterprise, America's last operational carrier in the Pacific, writhes beneath a swarm of Japanese aircraft. Black smoke billows from her sister ship Hornet, already crippled, already dying. The radio crackles. 16 bandits inbound! Torpedo bombers breaking formation! Veitasa's eyes narrow. Through the haze, he counts them. Not 16, 18. Nakajima B-5N. Kate. Torpedo bombers descending like hunting raptors toward Enterprise's exposed port side. He checks his fuel. 15 minutes remaining. His ammunition, 240 rounds per gun. Less than 20 seconds of trigger time. 6 50 caliber machine guns. 18 enemy aircraft. The mathematics don't look good. Below him, the Pacific War hangs by a thread. Midway was 4 months ago. Guadalcanal bleeds Marines every day. After today, the U.S. Navy will have exactly 0 operational carriers in the South Pacific unless someone stops those torpedo planes. What Veitasa doesn't know is that the next 6 minutes will rewrite carrier defense tactics forever. What he doesn't know is that Japanese crews will radio back in disbelief. One Grumman destroyed our entire formation. What he doesn't know is that this Montana farm boy, who grew up 25 miles from the nearest town, who learned to fly just 3 years ago, is about to achieve something military historians will debate for 8 decades. What he doesn't know is that he's already done the impossible once shooting down 3 Zeros while flying a dive bomber, not a fighter, and the Navy quietly transferred him to fighters because killing enemies in the wrong aircraft was, technically, unauthorized. Veitasa pushes his throttle forward. The Pratt & Whitney engine roars. He rolls inverted and dives toward the formation at full combat power. 6 minutes until he lands. 18 bombers in his sights. The clock starts now. 6 months earlier, the Pacific War was a catastrophe. Pearl Harbor destroyed the battleship fleet. Wake fell. The Philippines fell. Singapore fell. By May 1942, the Imperial Japanese Navy controlled an ocean larger than the continental United States, and their carriers had never tasted defeat. The problem wasn't courage. It was hardware. American fighters consisted of 1 aircraft, the Grumman F-4F Wildcat. Compared to the legendary Mitsubishi Zero, the Wildcat was inferior in nearly every category. The Zero outturned it, outclimbed it, had better range, better visibility, and dominated dogfights where the Wildcat became sluggish. We called them flying coffins, recalled Lieutenant James Thach. Every pilot knew the statistics. The Zero could turn inside us every time. Get into a turning fight at low altitude, you were dead. The kill ratios proved it. In the war's first 6 months, Zeros massacred Allied fighters at Darwin, Java, Sea, Ceylon. The solution, according to every tactical expert, was simple. Don't fight Zeros and Wildcats. Wait for new aircraft. Wait for the F-6F Hellcat still 18 months away. Conserve forces. Accept losses. But by October 1942, there was nothing left to conserve. Midway in June cost Japan 4 carriers, but cost America the Yorktown. Eastern Solomons in August damaged Enterprise. Now at Santa Cruz, Japan brought 4 carriers against America's 2, Hornet and Enterprise. The stakes couldn't be higher. If both American carriers sank, Japanese forces at Guadalcanal would receive unlimited air support. Marines would be overrun. Australia would face invasion. The entire Pacific strategy would collapse. And everyone knew the Wildcat couldn't stop it. The F-4 was overweight and underpowered, explained Lieutenant Commander James Flatley, who commanded VF-10 Grim Reapers. We added 2 more guns, which meant less ammunition. Added folding wings, which added weight. Added armor and self-sealing tanks, good for survival, terrible for performance. The numbers told the story. F4. F4, maximum speed, 318 miles per hour. 0, 331 miles per hour. Wildcat climb rate, 2,265 feet per minute. 0, 3,100. In turns, the Zero completed 360 degrees in 16 seconds. The Wildcat needed 23. You couldn't outrun them, couldn't outturn them, couldn't outclimb them, said Lieutenant Albert Vorse, Vetasa's squadron mate. Official doctrine became, hit once, dive away, escape, never stick around. This defensive doctrine saved pilots but not carriers. By the 26th of October 1942, that doctrine had failed repeatedly. USS Lexington, sunk. Yorktown, sunk. Wasp, sunk. Hornet, burning. One carrier remained. Protecting it was a 28-year-old Montana farm boy named Stanley Vetasa, whose tactical innovations the Navy had already rejected as too dangerous, too unconventional, and according to one staff memo, inconsistent with approved fighter doctrine. That officer was right about one thing. Vetasa wasn't following doctrine. He was rewriting it. Stanley Winfield Vetasa wasn't supposed to be a fighter pilot at all. Born the 27th of July, 1914, on a homestead outside Circle, Montana, Swede grew up in isolation that would break most men. The nearest town sat 25 miles across prairie dirt roads. His father, John, had staked his claim after emigrating from Czechoslovakia, carving a ranch from land so remote that supply runs happened quarterly. "We didn't have electricity until I was 16, Vetasa recalled. Didn't have running water. You learned to fix everything yourself because there was nobody to call. No prep school. No military tradition. No Naval Academy connections. Just a Czech immigrant son who could repair engines and wanted to see the ocean." Vetasa enlisted as an aviation cadet in 1937, not from patriotism, but because the Navy offered flight training. He earned his wings in 1939 at Pensacola, scoring middle of his class, not the top. Not a natural ace. Swede wasn't flashy, remembered Flatley. He was methodical, quiet. Some guys thought he was too cautious. But when things went to hell, Swede didn't panic. He calculated. The Navy assigned him to Scouting Squadron 5 as a Douglas SBD Dauntless pilot, a dive bomber, not a fighter. His job was dropping bombs on ships, then running before Zeros caught him. At Coral Sea on the 7th of May, 1942, Vetasa helped sink Japanese carrier Shoho. The Navy awarded him his first Navy Cross for the bombing run. But May 8 changed everything. Vetasa was leading 4 Dauntless bombers on anti-torpedo patrol, using slow bombers as makeshift fighters because the Navy lacked real fighters. 3 Zeros jumped them. Doctrine said, run, dive, call for help. Vetasa turned into the Zeros in a dive bomber and shot down all 3. The Navy's official report called it extraordinary. Privately, officers called it impossible. SBDs don't shoot down Zeros. You don't turn toward them. That's not what we trained. Vetasa's wingman testified that Swede flew that Dauntless like a fighter. Pure deflection, shooting, aggressive maneuvering, no hesitation. The Navy faced a choice. Court-martial Vetasa for deviating from doctrine, or transfer him to fighters where aggressive tactics belonged. They chose fighters. Barely. In June 1942, Vetasa joined VF-10 Grim Reapers aboard Enterprise, transitioning to the F-4 Wildcat. He spent 4 months learning the fighter's quirks, its hidden strengths the manuals never mentioned. 4 months later, at Santa Cruz, those unorthodox instincts would matter, because doctrine doesn't save carriers when 18 bombers attack at once. June 1942. Enterprise, Coral Sea. Lieutenant Commander Flatley stands in VF-10's ready room, chalk in hand, sketching a diagram that looks nothing like Pensacola training. Gentlemen, everything you know about fighting Zeros is wrong, flatly announces. Not because your instructors were incompetent, they taught you to survive. I'm teaching you to win. The diagram shows two Wildcats in mutually supporting pairs, not the three-plane V formation Navy doctrine prescribed since 1938. It's called the Thach weave, flatly continues. When a Zero jumps your wingman, you cross over. He draws the Zero into your guns. Then reverse, a defensive scissors that turns defense into offense. Lieutenant Vorse raises his hand. Sir, that requires turning toward the enemy. We're trained to dive away. That's why we're losing, Flatley says quietly. Diving away saves your life today, but it doesn't save the carrier. Stanley Vetasa sits in back, silent, absorbing everything. The new tactics violated three official doctrines. First, Wildcats must maintain formation integrity. The weave broke formation deliberately. Second, attack from high altitude, one pass, extend away. The weave required sustained engagement. Third, avoid turning fights at all costs. The weave required continuous turns. That's illegal, said one pilot after the briefing. They'll court-martial the whole squadron. Only if we survive, Vetasa replied. Testing began immediately practice engagements against other VF-10 pilots playing Zeros. Day after day, the Grim Reapers flew new patterns until muscle memory replaced hesitation. Vetasa added his own modification. Instead of two-plane sections, he experimented with solo attacks, identifying the lead bomber and targeting leaders first, disrupting coordination. Other pilots called it suicide. Vetasa called it shooting the head off the snake. Swede didn't ask permission, recalled Lieutenant Dave Pollock. He'd just peel off during drills and demonstrate. First time, I thought he'd lost his mind. But when the lead bomber went down, others scattered. No leadership, no coordinated attack. Flatley watched these unauthorized solo intercepts with concern and grudging admiration. Lieutenant Vetasa, Flatley said after one drill, you understand that what you're doing requires perfect deflection shooting and perfect ammunition conservation? Yes, sir. And if you miss or run out of ammunition mid-engagement, you'll be alone against however many bombers remain? Yes, sir. Flatley studied him. Why risk it? Vetasa's answer was simple. Because when 18 bombers attack at once, doctrine says we can't stop them all. So doctrine needs to change. 3 months later, at Santa Cruz, it did. The 24th of August 1942. Enterprise, Eastern Solomons Battle. The first test of VF-10's unauthorized tactics happens under fire. Japanese dive bombers from carrier Ryujo swarm Enterprise in waves. Vetasa and the Grim Reapers engage using the Thach weave paired Wildcats scissoring through formations, turning defensive scrambles into offensive kills. Result: 16 Japanese aircraft destroyed, 0 American fighters lost. Rear Admiral Thomas Kincaid immediately demands a briefing. What just happened violates 3 sections of the Fighter Tactics Manual, yet Enterprise survived undamaged while Ryujo sank. The meeting happens in Enterprise's flag briefing room. Present: Kincaid, staff officers, Air Group Commander, and Flatley. Vetasa isn't invited. Junior lieutenants don't attend admiral briefings. Commander Flatley, begins Staff Officer Commander William Reed. Your report describes tactics explicitly prohibited by doctrine. Sustained turning engagements, breaking formation, solo intercepts outside coordinated control. Yes, sir, Flatley replies evenly. These tactics expose pilots to unnecessary risk. A Wildcat that stays engaged becomes vulnerable to counterattack. That's why doctrine mandates hit and run. Respectfully, sir, doctrine was written to maximize pilot survival, not carrier survival. The room goes silent. Reed leans forward. Are you suggesting we sacrifice pilots to protect ships? I'm suggesting we're losing carriers because fighters prioritize escape over interception. Lexington sunk. Yorktown sunk. Wasp sunk 3 weeks ago. At this rate, We'll have no carriers by Christmas, and our pilots will have survived for nothing. Another officer, Commander Joseph Bryan, speaks. The Zero outperforms the Wildcat in every metric. Sustained engagement guarantees higher losses. Flatley doesn't flinch. Lieutenant Vetasa shot down 3 Zeros in a dive bomber at Coral Sea. In sustained engagement, the Zero is superior in maneuverability, but the Wildcat is superior in durability. Our aircraft can absorb punishment, theirs can't. That dive bomber incident was luck. Then Lieutenant Vetasa is extremely lucky, Flatley interrupts, because at Eastern Solomons, he personally shot down 4 aircraft in 3 minutes using the same tactics. The room erupts. Bryan, those tactics could have gotten him killed. Reed, this isn't 1918. We don't need barnstormer heroics. Another officer, if Vetasa had been shot down. Admiral Kincaid raises one hand. Silence falls. Commander Flatley, Kincaid says quietly, how many bombers reached Enterprise? 3, sir. All missed. No hits. And your pilot losses? None, sir. Kincaid looks at Reed and Bryan. Gentlemen, I appreciate your concern for doctrine, but we're not winning by following rules written when the Zero didn't exist. The Japanese are winning because they adapted faster. Reed tries once more. Sir, if we authorize these tactics fleet-wide and pilots take unsustainable losses, then I'll take responsibility, Kincaid says flatly. But right now, Enterprise is the only operational carrier in the South Pacific. If she goes down, Guadalcanal falls. Australia faces invasion. Everything collapses. He turns to Flatley. Your squadron continues current tactics. If they work, we'll revise doctrine. If they fail, he doesn't finish. Understood, sir. As the meeting breaks, Bryan corners Flatley in the passageway. You're betting everything on one farm boy's instincts. Flatley meets his eyes. I'm betting on results. Vetasa has survived 13 missions using tactics you call suicidal. He shot down 7 enemy aircraft, never lost a wingman. At some point, we ask, what if he's right and we're wrong? And if he dies? Then I was wrong, Flatley says quietly. But I'd rather be wrong trying to save this carrier than right watching it sink. 2 months later, at Santa Cruz, that bet comes due. The 26th of October, 1942, 09:08 hours, Santa Cruz Islands. Stanley Vetasa's Wildcat screams downward at 380 miles per hour, 40 knots past redline. Below, 18 Nakajima B-5N torpedo bombers split into 2 groups, converging on Enterprise from port and starboard simultaneously. Standard doctrine: attack the nearest group, shoot what you can, break away. Vetasa ignores it entirely. He rolls inverted, pulls through the dive, and comes up beneath the lead bomber, a 3-plane formation flying tight V. The crews don't see him until his first burst hits. The F-4 carries 6 Browning 50 caliber machine guns, 3 per wing, converging at 300 yards. At that range, 6 guns deliver 70 rounds per second. Each round weighs 1.7 ounces and travels at 2,840 feet per second. The physics are brutal. Vetasa's first burst 2 seconds, 140 rounds, rips through the lead bomber's starboard engine. Flame erupts. The Kate staggers, drops its torpedo prematurely, and noses over trailing black smoke. First kill, 908 to 23 hours. The 2 wingmen break formation. This is the moment doctrine warns about. You're slow, vulnerable, surrounded. Extend away, dive, escape. Vetasa reverses hard left instead, pulling 7 Gs. He pirouettes onto the tail of the second bomber, who's turning to give his rear gunner a shot. Big mistake. The bomber can't match the Wildcat's roll rate. Vetasa snaps onto his 6 o'clock, closes to 200 yards, and fires a 3-second burst. The tail section disintegrates. The bomber flips inverted and crashes. Second kill, 908 to 51 hours. The third bomber breaks right, diving toward wave tops where Enterprise's anti-aircraft can't reach him. Veitasa follows, rolling through 90 degrees, leading the target by 2 aircraft lengths. This time, he aims for the cockpit. The canopy shatters. The aircraft holds course for 3 seconds. Dead crew, controls locked, then cartwheels into the Pacific. Third kill. 909 to 14 hours. Now the port formation sees him. 9 bombers are still inbound, but their coordination is broken. Without their lead element, they're individuals making individual decisions, exactly what Veitasa counted on. This is shooting the head off the snake, he later explained. Kill the leaders, formation collapses. They start thinking survival instead of mission. 3 Kates turn away, aborting entirely. 6 continue toward Enterprise, scattered, approaching from different angles. Veitasa selects the nearest a bomber at 1,200 feet, torpedo visible under fuselage. If that weapon hits Enterprise's engine room, the carrier's done. He dives from above, an overhead pass with sun at his back. The crew never sees him. His burst walks from tail to cockpit 4 seconds, 280 rounds. The torpedo drops free, unarmed, splashing harmlessly. The bomber follows, cartwheeling, burning. Fourth kill, 909 to 52 hours. Ammunition remaining, 600 rounds, 8 bombers left. His radio crackles. White 19, sky control. 5 more bandits inbound, break off and return to station. Translation: you're alone, low on ammo, about to be swarmed, get out. Veitasa keys his mic once acknowledgement and stays in the fight. 2 more bombers make final approach. Torpedo release altitude, 500 yards from Enterprise's port beam. Veitasa banks hard, bleeding airspeed, setting up a high deflection shot requiring perfect timing. He fires. The first bomber explodes. His rounds detonate the torpedo while attached. The blast knocks the second bomber sideways. It recovers, drops its torpedo, but the weapon runs erratic, circling back. The bomber pilot pulls up hard to avoid his own weapon and stalls. Crashes. Fifth kill. 910 to 19 hours. Sixth kill. 910 to 24 hours. 2 kills, 5 seconds apart. Remaining bombers break off completely. 3 flee north. 2 attempt one desperate attack. Ammunition remaining, 240 rounds, 4 seconds of trigger time. Veitasa pursues the trailing bomber, closes to 150 yards point blank, and fires a 2-second burst. The left wing separates at the root. The aircraft tumbles, corkscrewing into the ocean. 7th kill. 910 to 58 hours. 1 bomber left. 1 final chance to hit Enterprise. The Kate pilot is good weaving, varying altitude, making deflection shots nearly impossible. Veitasa has 120 rounds remaining, 2 seconds. He doesn't chase. Instead, he climbs, gaining altitude, positioning himself between the bomber and Enterprise. When the Kate commits to its final attack run, Veitasa dives head-on, a tactic so dangerous it's explicitly forbidden. Both aircraft hurtle toward each other at combined closing speed of 500 knots. Veitasa fires his last burst. The bomber's nose section disintegrates. It pitches up violently, missing Enterprise's flight deck by 200 feet, and cartwheels into the ocean on the opposite side. 8th kill. 911 to 47 hours. 6 minutes. 18 bombers attacked, 8 destroyed, 10 fled or crashed, avoiding him. 0 torpedoes hit Enterprise. Japanese ace Saburo Sakai, monitoring the radio from carrier Zuikaku, later wrote, "For some strange reason, even after I had poured 500 or 600 rounds directly into the Grumman, the airplane did not fall but kept flying. I thought this very odd. A Zero which had taken that many bullets would have been a ball of fire. Veitasa's Wildcat was hit 11 times that day. It kept flying. He landed on Enterprise at 0918 hours. Fuel, 4 minutes remaining. Ammunition, 0. The deck crew counted bullet holes while he climbed out. Someone asked how many he got. 7 confirmed, Veitasa said. Maybe 8. Hard to tell when they all went in the water. November 1942, Pearl Harbor. The Navy confirms Veitasa's kill count. 7 aircraft destroyed in a single mission. Official records credit him with the 8th, the bomber that crashed, avoiding his head-on attack. Combined with his earlier Coral Sea victories, Stanley Swede Veitasa becomes a double ace, 10.25 confirmed kills. The only Navy pilot to receive the Navy Cross for both dive bombing and aerial combat. But there's a problem. His achievements directly contradict official doctrine. Admitting he succeeded using unauthorized tactics means admitting doctrine was wrong. The Medal of Honor nomination flatly submits, disappears into bureaucracy. Veitasa receives a 3rd Navy Cross instead, prestigious, but not the recognition his actions earned. Politics, flatly said years later. Swede saved Enterprise, probably saved Guadalcanal. But he did it by breaking every rule, and some people couldn't forgive that. The statistics tell the real story. Before Santa Cruz, F4F Wildcat kill-to-loss ratio, 1.9 to 1. After VF-10's tactics became official doctrine in January 1943, 6.9 to 1. The F4F Wildcat destroyed 1,327 enemy aircraft during the war at a cost of 178 aerial losses, a ratio that would have been impossible under the old defensive tactics. One Enterprise pilot wrote home, "We watched Swede fight off 18 Jap bombers by himself. Because of him, we came home. My wife will meet our daughter because one Montana farm boy refused to follow the rules." Veitasa retired as a Navy captain on the 1st of July, 1974, after 37 years of service. He flew the first F-4U Corsair combat missions in 1943, served as an aircraft carrier, air boss, and trained the next generation of fighter pilots. But he never sought fame. Back in Montana, friends barely knew his war record. He didn't talk about it, didn't attend reunions. When researchers found him decades later, he was surprised anyone cared. "I did my job," he said simply. "A lot of guys did their jobs. Some didn't make it home. Why should I get special attention?" Stanley Winfield Veitasa died the 23rd of January 2013 at age 98. His ashes were scattered at sea, final resting place alongside the men he saved. Today, his F-4F Wildcat tactics are still taught at Navy Fighter Weapons School. The principle he proved, that aggressive defense beats passive survival, forms the foundation of modern carrier air defense. The Grumman F-4F Wildcat never outperformed the Zero on paper. But in the hands of pilots like Veitasa, who understood that protecting the mission mattered more than protecting yourself, it won the war. One Japanese pilot, captured after the war, was asked about American fighters. His answer? The Zero was faster, more maneuverable, more beautiful, but the Grumman would not die. You could shoot it, burn it, break it, and it would not die. Neither would the men who flew them. Stanley Veitasa proved that on the 26th of October 1942, when 18 bombers attacked one carrier and one farm boy from Montana decided doctrine was worth less than the lives on the ship below him. He broke the rules. He saved the carrier. He changed the war.